Now today I'm going to show you how to paint a very shiny, colourful pebble in watercolour. But you'll be very surprised how much detail is actually involved. So let's get them brushes wet and let's get started. First thing to do, get some colours in your mixing palette. Whatever colours you want to use. Be it reds, yellows, orange, pinks, you name it, it's entirely up to you. It's your pebble at the end of the day. And we know the pebbles do vary in shape and size, of course they do. Draw it out whatever shape you want, then wet the inside of that, then start to introduce those colours into that shape, leaving plenty of gaps in between as well. And also mix colours together as well, which I tend to do. But keeping it quite random, keeping it quite varied with those colours. Also start to think about the shape of that pebble as well. You can see in my case we've got a little bit more orange on the left hand side of the pebble. So whilst the paper is still wet, start to stipple in that colour, but leave tiny little marks like this. Now these stipple marks will blend as the paper starts to dry. At least this way it gives you more of a diffused feel on that pebble, because remember this pebble's smooth, but yet, it still looks quite textured, doesn't it? Keep changing those colours. Now the full version of this video is now available on my Patreon channel, and this is where I talk in real time through the entire process of how to paint this very colourful and shiny looking pebble. Notice how the light is coming more or less from the top left hand corner, because we've got the shadow towards the bottom right, haven't we, in this case. So just bear that in mind when you're introducing the colours. And this is where I like to have a little bit more fun by using the splattering technique. And for this all I've got is my old mixing brush. But you can use an old toothbrush, anything like that will be fine. Now just don't overload it too much, otherwise your splatter marks will be far too big. All I'm using is a piece of printer paper with a similar sort of shape cut out in the middle, that's it. And that way it protects the white of the paper as well. Once it's dry, think about the shadows you can see again within that pebble. But to add this shadow in, just wet one side of the pebble, then drop in a watery dark mixture onto that one side. Now while that side's drying, let's stipple the other side. Now again, I can still see that orange colour within that pebble. But this time I've got a very old brush which I used to use for oil painting many years ago, way before I started working with watercolours. And this is really handy because it's a stiff, bristled brush. So that means you can get some very fine little dots within that pebble. Be careful though, it can start to look a little bit too uniform, a little bit too symmetrical. So make sure you keep twisting that brush around every now and then in your hand, just to vary the direction of those marks. Then I'll switch to my favourite brush, the size 00. And this is where I can start to add a little bit more detail in this pebble now. As you can see, we're gradually working in layers, and because we're working in layers, each layer will get richer and deeper in tone. And this is also where we can add those darkest marks, and I mean the really dark marks we can see within that pebble. And also the richer tones as well. So going back to my sort of orangey red colour, this is where I can start to form all the little shapes we can see within that pebble again. Remember, this is a shiny surface, but I'll show you how to make it shine in a bit, so stay tuned, okay? Look carefully at those shapes you can see in that reference photograph, and to be honest with you, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, of course not. Just something that's similar to that reference photo. Remember, this is more of an artistic representation of that photograph, isn't it? It's a painting at the end of the day, not a photograph. Now keep those marks random, and also every now and then, just water your colour down a little bit, just to put in a separate well somewhere, because then you can vary the tonal range as you apply it to the paper. If I put loads and loads of dark colour on the top of this pebble now, it wouldn't look right. So by varying the opacity of your colours which you apply, at least that way, you can vary the way that it looks on that pebble. Now if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to my channel down below, because when you subscribe to my channel, you'll learn more about watercolour tips, techniques and many other watercolour ideas along the way. Click on that subscribe button now. Now let's do some more lifting off with a larger brush. Now the reason why I'm doing this, you can see a lot of reflected light underneath that pebble. So look carefully towards the point area, which I am now, okay? With a damp clean brush, just take it across that area 2-3 times, and then that'll take off a small amount of paint. If you take too much paint off, it's not a problem, you can always put it back on again, can't you? Now time for the highlights. Now I like to use opaque white. You can use white gouache if you want to, not a problem at all. But at least opaque white, I get on with that one really well. And I make sure it's really creamy in consistency. Now you need the white to be creamy for those really bright areas. Because if you don't, what will happen? It will start to fade as it dries. So hardly any water whatsoever within that paint. Work your way around the pebble. Look carefully at the reference photograph, okay? And where you see the highlights are not bright white, water that white down just a touch. And by doing so, that'll give more of a dull highlight in that area. Shadow. Me and my shadow. Now we've got to put a shadow on this because otherwise it simply looks like it's floating on the paper. So wet the area first of all, then drop in the colours for that shadow, which in this case is more of a grey, brown, black colour, isn't it? Notice how it's really dark underneath the pebble, but gradually gets lighter as it works away from that pebble. If you're interested in learning how to paint rocks in watercolour, have a look at the link to the top right hand corner of the screen. I'll see you there.